Okay, so you've watched a ton of videos from my YouTube, and you're 27. Is that right?
Yes, I am.
Um, and you're not, so based on what you've sent, you're not like morbidly obese, right? You're more just
No.
considered, you would be considered overweight, but you've identified that you have an emotional eating problem, right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, and you were just saying, but I don't know where to pinpoint it.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem is identifying before I make the mistake what that I'm in that kind of state of mind.
Okay, well, here's the thing. And if you've watched any of my most recent YouTube videos, you might not have. You might be still in the ones that I posted about 3 years ago. Um, what we have found, so with the HCG protocol, yes, it's amazing, right? It is a hormonal therapy. It can help, in my opinion, right? Because we don't have the science, collective science, to be conclusive. But based on what I've observed over the last 6 years, and I truly believe that it can improve your metabolism. And I have the data, and I put it in Weight Loss Apocalypse, and I've continued to see things evolve. But I do know that if we take you emotionally out of the picture and we watch the human body under the influence of the HCG protocol, and after the fact, that it can heal hormonal issues, metabolic issues, and all sorts of stuff. However, it doesn't heal your behavior. That's something that you have to do, right?
Yeah,
So one of the things that I've come to watch and observe as I've progressively continued my observations is that people struggle after the protocol when they go back to dieting. So what I mean by struggle is they struggle with emotional eating, eating excessively, when they start to minimize options with food. When they say, I can't eat this, I won't eat that, right? So you can take someone through a diet or the protocol or any type of weight loss program. And as soon as they finish the program, if they go, if meaning the weight loss part of it, if they say, okay, I'm going to try to maintain this by removing this type of food and that food, what I found is that there's 100% failure rate with people who judge and eliminate food. I've also found that over time, that as people reintegrate into the eating the in the abundance we live in, if they give themselves the freedom to enjoy all food, that they don't have the same issues emotionally eating. So,
yeah.
does that make sense? So let me see if I can simplify this. The people who struggle are the people who eliminate food. The
Yeah.
people who struggle with emotional eating, they eliminate food and they moralize it as bad or good. The people who don't struggle and they easily eat to hunger give themselves the abundance in terms of options when they are hungry.
But not in volume.
Yeah, they're eating to hunger, right? So they're matching their body's flow and hormonal rhythms, but they give themselves the abundance and choice. There's no shame, there's no guilt, there's no deprivation. So at any time when they're hungry, they can have spaghetti. So do you think, just in terms of just spaghetti, if you can have it any time you're hungry, what's the likelihood you're going to binge on it?
A lot less.
Agreed? Okay, so if you can have
Yes, yeah.
cereal anytime you're hungry, it's always an option for you. What's the chance that you're going to binge on cereal?
Very minimal.
Okay, so if you can have bread anytime you're hungry, no shame, no guilt, no sense of inadequacy or failure, and it's abundant for you anytime you're hungry, what's the likelihood that you're going to feel the impulse to overeat it?
I suppose you wouldn't, because yeah, it removes that factor of like
Okay,
eating like it's your last meal.
you got it. Yes. Now you're telling me this out of your own personal experience, right?
Yep.
Okay, so it's not like you went to school and learned this. You actually have personal experience with. As soon as you tell yourself, so what I found as people transitioned off, even if they use the hunger scale and they followed this rhythm of hunger scale, if they said, okay, at any point, I'm not going to eat any more gluten or starch just for the sake of fear of regaining their weight, they binge, they overconsume, they have a hard time listening and eating to hunger because there's so much. I might get deprived or I have failed. So they tend to struggle a ton. Like it is, they go right back into the pattern of overconsumption. So where you're struggling right now, because you just started watching these videos, right? You're just starting to get into what we're doing at this clinic.
Yep.
Is you're recognizing that you have the impulses to eat, correct?
Oh, yes. Yep.
But what you haven't made the connection to yet is that the reason you have these impulses is because you morally judge the food as bad and you can't have it. So I noticed like in your daily log, you start every morning with a protein shake. That is so typical diet, right? Because it has to be perfect. It's controlled for you. It's a
Yeah.
safe thing to eat. But yet you're not recognizing that your limitation in choice in food is enabling you to feel incapable of food. Like, when was the last time you had a grilled cheese sandwich?
Oh, wow. In like 6 months.
Wouldn't it be delicious to be able to have a grilled cheese sandwich?
Yeah.
Now, if you allowed yourself at any time to be able to eat a grilled cheese sandwich, and we're talking like butter, fried bread, multiple types of cheeses, this, it's really delicious,
Yeah.
crunchy, buttery, cheesy. Okay. At any time you can have that. If you ate it, right? We kind of determined just a little bit ago that you'd be fine. You probably wouldn't have the impulse to eat the whole thing. You would totally enjoy it, right? You wouldn't feel that if you had that freedom. But if you're trying to lose weight, can you eat can you eat it? A grilled cheese
Um,
sandwich?
no, I guess my mentality now, which I'm trying to get over, is like, no, it's off limits because it's just got too much of the bad stuff.
Bad, right? Because so now what
Yeah.
happens is you can't eat that. So now what
Yeah.
happens when you're like, I really want a grilled cheese sandwich? What do you do in your mind? What are you doing? I really want it. That sounds really good, but I can't eat it. How's that feel? Because it's bad.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you try to justify it.
Okay, justify,
Give yourself
rationalize. So it becomes
excuses.
really
Yeah.
powerful, right? Like you've earned it. Like I'll fix it later. Like screw it, I shouldn't have to feel bad. Now what happens to the impulse to eat it?
It goes up
It's
once.
really big.
Yeah.
So it's bigger. The impulse to eat it is bigger if you say you can't have it versus you can have it anytime you want. Which one are you going to be able to moderate more effectively in terms of quantity? The one where you have to lose weight so you can't have it, or the one where you can have it anytime you want?
Anytime you want.
It's going to be much easier because now
Yeah.
you're really, the decision in eating it does it sound good to me? Because if it doesn't sound good, why would you eat it?
Yeah.
Right? So have you ever considered, right, that in your impulses to eat, that it is directly caused, it is a cause from the diet you're implementing?
I only started to consider that after watching some of your videos.
But now do you see, like, okay, so if you demonize food because you think you need to lose weight, it's like I use the example of looking at a menu item. You're going to go out to dinner with your friends and you have a menu in front of you. If you need to lose weight, you are emotionally blocking out most of the menu from an option because it's all bad.
Yep.
And so you're left with this dry, frothy type of food that doesn't really satisfy pleasure at all. It's not really pleasurable. It doesn't sound good, but it's safe, right? It's
Yeah.
good. Oh, look at you. You had your salad. Oh my gosh. You're so good, right?
Yeah.
So you're never really gratifying what sounds good to you because it's not even an option. So how do you think that feels? Depriving, punishing.
I just went through this last week, the salad on the menu thing, and I got the salad, and it sucks.
Well, it sucked because it's not necessarily what your body wanted. So unfortunately with the diet mentality is you're left to navigate food that is it's very anorexic. You cannot eat bread. You cannot eat starch. You can't have the potatoes. You can't have anything that has carbohydrate. 10 years ago, it was non-fat, right?
Yeah.
Now you can't have any carbs. And psychologically, unfortunately, even if we were to say physiologically you're going to be healthier if you actually moderate those inflammatory foods, it doesn't matter, because if you emotionally and mentally feel deprived, none of that information, intellectual knowledge with food, matters. Right? So how often do you justify and rationalize eating excessively because you feel deprived and punished?
A lot.
So your issues with food, is it the food that's creating the impulse for you to eat, or is it feeling deprived that creates the impulse?
The deprivation.
Yeah. So like I said, so you're coming to our clinic and you're like, okay, I love this approach with emotional eating and this idea with the protocol that can fix maybe some of this physical damage. I'm telling you, if you do the protocol, you can do it with the mind-body method. You can do it eating to hunger. You can learn eating to hunger. But ultimately, if you go back to eliminating food or demonizing food, this is bad, you can't have it, and you start to selectively limit food and fear, you're going to repeat your history. So when you read Weight Loss Apocalypse, you're going to notice I talk about gluttony a ton. Like, we live in this culture that is so gluttonous. We use food for everything. It is such a big issue. Our consumption is huge. And I talk about, what are we compensating for? There's something else going on here. Well, it's a huge portion of the problem, which isn't just my opinion. There are social sciences to back this, is the culture of thinness, creating this anorexic system with food that is not purposefully. Okay, the people out there who are selling anorexic ways of eating aren't intentionally trying to mess you up. They actually think that it's a better way to do it, but they don't necessarily understand human psychology. So as soon as you say, I can't eat this because it's bad, you're prone to binge on it.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do this protocol and you're going to go back into reality, you have to learn that if you limit your choice, you're prone to overconsume. You have impulses to those foods that you're depriving yourself of. It's not the food that creates the impulse, it's the deprivation of that food. Okay? So you've got to be willing to eat in abundance and learn how your body manages those foods and learn how your body reacts to those foods. So this is why I have implemented the practice. So again, if you read Weight Loss Apocalypse, you're not going to hear a whole lot about practice. I do discuss it very briefly. Practice is, to me, the fundamentally most important part of the mind-body method, because you're essentially giving yourself the lenience and grace ahead of the protocol before you do it to learn how your body responds hormonally in terms of hunger and satiation and pleasure before you even start. So you're getting the opportunity to explore carbohydrates, to explore grains, to explore dairy, to explore fats, and to explore fish and different types of meats. And you're getting to explore fettuccine alfredo, and you get to explore, all of these foods on that menu. You need to have the abundance of that menu to then go, okay, what does my body want? So if I don't have to live in an anorexic diet system and I'm free to have this abundance, what do I naturally gravitate to then? If there's no diet telling me how to eat and how to starve myself, then how would I eat if I had abundance at my fingertips all the time? What would sound good to you on that menu if you were allowed to have a choice?
Lately I like a lot of pizza.
Well, that's something you probably deprive yourself of, and you're probably judging yourself. So do you really want pizza, or is that just because you're thinking you're never going to eat it again? At some point you're going to stop eating it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think it makes sense.
So think about it. So would you be gravitating to pizza so intensely if there wasn't this belief that you're never going to eat it again, or you're not going to eat it later, or you're going to eat less soon, or you're going to be on this diet soon? There's that. It's almost like you're preparing for a famine. Would you be deprived? Would you be eating pizza if you weren't preparing for a pizza famine?
No.
See, do you see where I'm saying? So you're like, well, I'm gravitating to pizza right now. Well, let's just say you can have pizza anytime you want, and it's not going to be going away anytime soon, and you can have it the rest of your life as long as it's available. Does it sound good to you right now?
No.
Okay, you see how that changes everything?
Yeah.
So you need to be given this practice time to be able to go, I'm going to eat in this abundance, and I want to learn what my body is naturally gravitating to if there's no deprivation telling me or creating the impulses. Right? Impulsively, you're gravitating to foods that you think are bad and that you're going to eliminate. If you don't have the bad and elimination, what would you naturally gravitate to? Maybe you'd rather have sushi. Maybe you'd rather have Thai food. What if you just want a bowl of cereal? What would happen if you just gravitated and allowed yourself the freedom to explore with food with no shame, no guilt, and the limits of just eating to hunger? So there is a boundary.
Yeah. I'd probably eat smaller rations of just whatever I wanted.
Yeah, and you wouldn't feel deprived. There would be no sense of impulsiveness to finish anything because you can always get it again when you're hungry again.
Yeah, so it removes the desire to binge eat.
Well, totally, completely, absolutely. Binge eating, what we know today based on science and research and data, is not about the food. The food is secondary. It's about feeling deprived and ashamed. So, yeah, if we get rid of the deprivation and the shame of the food, the moralizing of it, like I said, you can have anything on that menu. There's no filtering of the menu through the diet or anorexic belief system, right? So if you get everything on that menu, just think about that. Now you get to discriminate from what sounds good to you. So do you really want to have fettuccine alfredo, or would you much rather have an Italian sandwich? Which one sounds better? Is it this, do you want more the heavy cream, or do you want this vinegar salt? What hits the mouth? So once you have the abundance, now you discriminate based on what sounds good. It's a very different way to eat, don't you agree?
Yeah, much more enjoyable.
Oh yeah, so then you get to be present with the food. So the pleasure response in the brain is actually far more active when you are eating food intentionally versus eating food because you're going to get deprived of it. It takes a lot more if you're going to get deprived. So the protocol, there is a preparatory phase to it. So what we found too is if you just jump right into it without practicing in the real world with real food, is you're more likely to have fear and anxiety when you transition off of it. Okay? So right now, you need to give yourself the grace and the leniency that you're going to want to have when you're done with your protocol. So it's like giving you the chance to figure it out and the lenience to figure it out. When you're done with the protocol, most people, if you attach to the weight loss as something that makes you a better person, right? If you lose weight and you go, look at me, I'm so much better. If you do that, what do you think is going to happen with food? In fear that you're going to regain.
Fear, yeah.
Okay, do you see where that's where people slip back into the emotional eating cycle? So by giving yourself freedom in the beginning right now to learn this, your body, and to learn food with the grace right now that you have in the body you have right now, you're going to have less fear and anxiety when your protocol is over. So you're less likely to go back into fear of food and food elimination that creates these big impulses to eat.
Yeah.
That right there, folks, is not in Weight Loss Apocalypse. It will be in my next book, though. So, yes. So it's really important that you do this practice and you give yourself the lenience to go look at a menu, say, I'm going to learn what sounds good to me. And I want to really observe what is palatable for me if I don't have to lose weight and I don't have all of this pressure to lose weight, right? Because when the protocol is over, the goal is there's no pressure to lose weight, correct? That you actually have a body that is in its natural state.
Yeah.
Can you give it the ability to be a body at that point? Or do you have to be anorexic to maintain it?
No, you don't have to be anorexic.
I know that you're smiling because you see that how messed up that is. Did you not see her? Did you not hear her?
Yeah.
Like, holy crap. Your instinct, the first instinct was to say, no, I have to be anorexic to maintain it. I have to not eat. I have to do this, right? You have to completely limit yourself to maintain it. Did you not get that?
Yeah.
And then you went, oh shit, that's not good. No wonder I binge.
Yeah.
Did you make that connection?
Yeah, I did. I went through a little process of deciding what I didn't want to say before.
I totally could see it in your face. I was just like, oh, she's like, you went, oh my God, you totally figured that out. I'm so glad. So that's what we're here for. We're going to protect you from the anorexic belief system that says you can't have sugar, you can't have grains, you can't do this. You know what? You need to have freedom to have access to those foods and learn your body with them without the shame, without the gear, with the fear, without the anxiety over having to maintain this weird perfectionism with food and body image. Like, you need to give yourself lenience to just be a human being for once. Can you see that your impulses to eat have everything to do with an anorexic belief system with food based on the diet culture that you live in? Consider the diet culture you live in. It's very anorexic, isn't it?
Yeah.
How much food fear do you see in a day? Can't have 5 foods that you cannot eat. Bad, shame, fear. Don't eat them. How much of that do you see in a day?
All the time.
That's because you're on social media. Social media is far worse than reality.
Yeah.
Right? So if you didn't see all the social media food mongering that's going on right now, and trust me, it's really intense right now, would you have the same impulses to binge? Would you have the same shame and fear about food?
No.
You wouldn't, would you? So the goal too is that you can see all this food mongering and all this fear-based, like you're going to die if you have a bite of it, all of that crap, and it not phase you, that you can see that that's dangerous so that you don't get sucked back into it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep, it does.
Okay.
I actually have an identical twin who's on the other end of the spectrum as me. She actually is the one that works out a ton after she eats.
Oh, so she's bulimic.
Yep, yeah, she's actually said that. She's identified, I guess, that she has a problem and told me that bulimia isn't just about throwing up, that she works out like for 2 hours straight just to try to eat up the calories she ate.
Yeah, and that has a lot to do with, body image, and it's important in your life and your upbringing and in our culture, right? Because being thin makes you so valuable.
Yeah.
You have to really question that belief too. If she didn't think that being thin was so valuable, would she dedicate her life to exercise and fear of food?
Yeah, probably not nearly as much.
No, she'd actually be developing herself spiritually, She'd actually be continuing to grow as this person rather than staying in a tiny little box afraid of expansion. Okay, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to be done. Do you have any questions for me with this video do you have anything you want to talk about?
My big thing I want to try to do is identify the 3.5 to 5.5 range.
Yes.
Right now I get hungry / move right in from hungry to starving really quickly because of my habits.
Yeah, and you need to give yourself the lenience to eat abundance. The food, you need to give yourself the options of all food, right? To do it. The other thing is the pressure to lose weight you need to get rid of right now. Just be done with it. Like, put that on a shelf. If you have that pressure right now to lose weight so that you can feel better about yourself and feel adequate, you're going to struggle. There's going to be too much pressure. Like, you have to be super perfect. That's like, remove it. You need to give yourself a bubble right now. Put a bubble around you that gives you grace and a period of time to not worry about your weight, to not worry about your clothes, how they fit, to not really worry about that thin identity, the anorexic identity this culture is trying to sell you, right? Like, you have to be anorexic to be valuable. Put that away for now. You don't need to. How does that feel?
Feels good.
Feels like, I can relax a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. You need to give yourself this space. I wish your sister could give herself the space.
Yeah.
I bet you she'd do anything to not have to exercise, because I've been there. I did the same thing for a long time.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to enjoy it.
No, it's miserable. It's a form of insanity. She's insane. There's mental illness that's beginning, and it just gets worse. It spirals into something really nasty. Anyways, well, at least it did for me. Might not
Yeah.
for her. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off.